Your Los Angeles Rams on the road to take on the Green Bay Packers. Rams sitting at 3-5. The Green Bay Packers with a 2-5 record. So just 5 wins between these two teams heading into Week 9. This game kicks off at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, kicking off on Fox from Lambeau Field on Sunday, November 5th. We get Adam Amin and Daryl Johnston in the booth, and Pam Oliver will be on the sideline. The Rams again in the red zones this week, and again a pretty solid area for the Rams. This is what happens when you might be below 500 or you're playing very popular teams in the Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay Packers, respectively. So that does help get a large area, but in the red zone. And these maps, by the way, are always subject to change, and sometimes they do have some differences by the time we actually get to Sunday. So if there are any updates, I try to keep up with them and try to keep my eyeballs on any adjustments potentially being made on those. But that is, for the most part, pretty standard on what you can expect. Usually it's only 1 or 2 counties that are changing their picks here. Speaking of picks, it is time for Pants Picks. And last week, absolutely nailed it, which is got me feeling pretty good. Rams house is absolutely on fire. Peo taking a little bit of a step back this week and falling down to last place. But I actually don't have Peo's picks to tell you, but of course he always gets them in before the official announcement happens. So of course I'll know what he picked. But if you would like to participate in this chaos as well, drop your pants picks below. And we know that the Rams will be in the white jerseys. We just don't know what color pants the Rams will be in. But my pick, as well as Rams house, we are going with the royal pants in this one. That's why we got the royal over here onto this bad boy. But we could see the soul. So you never know. But I'm going to lock in my pick here, and it is the royal. So, of course, it feels like the Rams would do that simply because, like, last week you go against the Cowboys, which is like a silver and blue situation. So going with the soul pants makes total sense. In here, I'm just going to say that that's why I think that we go the royal pants, is because, well, the Packers don't use royal. But drop your predictions in the comments section below so you can participate in this chaos that we call Pants Picks. Fun stuff. So what we are looking at for this game, of course, is 2 teams actually in a pretty similar situation here. So it's not exactly selling the farm and starting from scratch, but definitely more eyeballs on the next few seasons than maybe this year's playoff run for both teams. The entire vibe with both of these teams right now is almost identical outside of the quarterback spot, where the Rams they've got a champion in that role, a literal champion. He's won a Super Bowl before, but he is, of course, getting older. So we don't know exactly how much longer we'll have Matthew Stafford or how healthy he can be if he does continue to play. And on the Packers side, they're still trying to find out if Love is somebody that they can continue to build around. All indications right now say that maybe not, but also, I mean, he's only started, 7 games, or I guess 8 if you go back to last year, maybe it's 9. But it's a very limited number of games that he's started in so far. So it's hard to say that he's not the guy. But I got to say also, usually by this time of your career, you can kind of tell if he's got it and it's just like maybe the team's not there. And it does kind of it's starting to feel like maybe Jordan Love is just not that guy. The Packers may not have gotten lucky on going Favre to Rodgers to Love and just back to back to back, killing it on future Hall of Fame talent there. It does seem like Love is going to break that. I don't know if you can call it a streak if you just go one guy to one guy, but either way, it does look like Love at this time is not going to be that guy that's potential Hall of Famer, all that stuff, Super Bowl champion, whatever. So this is, though, a good situation where the Packers now have to kind of evaluate that for the rest of the year. Being at 2-5, the Packers, I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs, right? And so you kind of are in a situation now where you've got a bunch of young guys out there, and so do the Rams. Like, it's kind of, that's part of the similarities there. But now you really get to see, like, the rest of the season. Like, all right, Jordan, like, we're not going to make no pressure, dude. Just go out and play football. And if he still is not being able to put it together, then maybe at the end of this season is really when you got to start taking a little bit of a peek and be like, all right, what do we do here? What's the move here? So, and then, of course, you got the LA Rams with Matthew Stafford. Is this going to be the offseason where we try to replace him, or we try to not replace him right away, but like maybe get that next guy in the wings here and kind of let him sit there maybe for a season, maybe 2 under Matthew Stafford before he takes over? And how wild would that be if that just became Jordan Love? I wouldn't want that to happen based on what we've seen from Jordan Love this year. And I'm not trying to just trash the dude. I'm sure he's a great guy, but as far as when it comes to leading your football team, he's just not the guy that I would want out there myself. But he's, of course, gaining valuable experience this year. Just kind of the same kind of comments that I have on a lot of the Rams roster right now is that even if it's not looking great right now, it's incredible experience. And by the end of this year, we should have a good feel on who the Rams should be keeping around and building around, or who maybe just doesn't make the cut next year and is looking for a new football team this offseason. And I think that Jordan Love is, he would be in that conversation if he was on our side. And I think he is necessary, he is in that conversation on their side there. So we have the matchup in this game with the Rams offense going against the Packers defense. So the Rams still boasting a top 10 offense, ranking 9th in the league right now, going against the 22nd ranked Packers defense in total yards. Passing the rock, the Rams are 8th in the league, going against the 11th ranked pass defense out of the Green Bay Packers. We'll talk about the shift there here shortly. Running the football, the Rams still sitting in the bottom half at 17th in the league, going against the 26th ranked run defense. And points being put up, the Rams just barely under 22 a game, that is tied for 14th, and the Packers giving up just over 22 a game, that is 20th in the NFL. So the Rams have a really, really good opportunity right now in this game specifically to play the exact game plan that we kind of need to play in this game, considering the injury to Matthew Stafford, considering that Brett Rippon might, even if he doesn't start, he might really have to take some of the reins in this one. So that kind of plays in perfectly to Darrell Henderson's officially on the roster now. Royce Freeman's been running really hard. And, I mean, hopefully Zach Evans can kind of start getting some playing time. I would like to see him a little bit more out there. But it's kind of a perfect situation to just let that kind of be the thing. This is the 11th ranked pass defense in the league, 26th ranked run defense in the league. So this is the perfect opportunity. It's kind of similar to when we were going into the game against the Cincinnati Bengals, how it felt like that needs to be the game plan. Well, now all indications say that needs to be the game plan. It's November at Lambeau Field, and our quarterback is a little bit beat up. This is the perfect situation. Let's just do that. Let's run the football in this game. So it is the perfect situation. Like I said, Matthew Stafford's availability definitely up in the air. So we should be running the rock a lot in this game against the 26th ranked run defense. But McVay, he's still McVay. And if he's going to still be McVay, we could see the air attack be a pretty major part of the game plan, which in today's NFL is obvious. But it seems like the Rams specifically go for it a little bit harder than that, than just the averages. And I got to say this too, is that Rasul Douglas trade to the Buffalo Bills going to entice Sean McVay to maybe throw the rock a little bit more, as there is, of course, going to be a bit of a depth chart shakeup now with Rasul Douglas out. I got to say this, I like Rasul Douglas a lot. I realize that Jair Alexander is extremely talented, but Rasul Douglas, that dude shows a lot of promise. And I got to say, not sad that we're not going against him this week. And Puka Nacua is in a really good spot to have a big day, sans Douglas in that Packers secondary. And the Packers defense, it really just isn't that bad, but it seems to be stricken with that Raheem Morris syndrome sometimes where, the corner's playing very off in short-to-go situations, which actually plays absolutely flawless into the Rams' game plan. We love to do those quick little routes with Puka and Tutu and Kupp and even Higbee in there. So if we can see some situations where they're playing off, then we should be able to eat up underneath. Much like teams do to us, it would be really cool to see it on the other end of us do that to them. So we'll see what kind of happens as far as that goes. But it's Joe Barry is their defensive coordinator out there in Green Bay, former Rams linebackers coach. So maybe this is also a little bit where he's got that experience, being in training camp and all that stuff with Sean McVay. So maybe we see some wrinkles out of that Joe Barry defense that we haven't really seen much of this season. But also, I mean, that's an apple picked right off that Raheem Morris tree. So maybe there's a little bit more too that Raheem Morris McVay does kind of have some knowledge on what Joe Barry will probably be trying to take away from him. So the game plan could really play into our favor there. And especially coming off this last week where the game plan kind of just fell apart on us real fast and hard. And then you get like the blocked punt for a safety and just all this stuff. It went really poorly, really, really fast. And so I'm hoping to see a little bit more of just a settled down team, kind of start it down and just I would like to start with the football. We do that a lot where we defer, and I would just really like to see this offense kind of get out. If we can get up on a team, especially like the Packers at Lambeau Field in November, if we can put 3 or 7 on the board to start the game before they even touch the ball, I think that puts Jordan Love in a bit of a predicament of like trying to play catch up the rest of the game. So that's something I would like to see if the Rams, of course, do win the toss. But that's getting into some weed stuff that that's getting into the weeds so much that like those are what ifs, and we don't need to really dive into that. We'll just talk about what we know is likely to happen. But to win coin tosses and stuff like that, it's obviously a massive toss up here. But you're 3 to see on the Rams offensive side. We're gonna go with the running backs here for starters. So Stafford banged up, may or may not play. Either way, the ground game should be the focus this week for the Rams. And any and all running backs need to find a good rhythm to just keep those chains moving. Keep the chains moving. Get to third and short, convert. Third and short, convert. If the Rams can do that to this Green Bay Packers team, which ranks in the 20s on almost everything offense and defense except for pass defense, and just traded one of their starting corners, this should be exactly how you go into this game. You just do that over and over and over again, and by the end of the game, you're probably winning by like 11, right? Like that's ideally and realistically, that is exactly what the Rams could do in this game if the game plans kind of work out that way. But of course, hey, they get paid too, so there's that part of it. Next in the 3 to see is going to be Puka Nacua. As Nacua, he's in a very good spot this week with Jaw Money likely, obviously taking Cup for a good chunk of the day. Will probably be lined up against Puka at some points, but I'm imagining that the Green Bay Packers defense, Joe Barry and company, they're going to want to put Jaw Money on Cooper Kupp, which is absolutely reasonable. He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. You're going to want to have one of the best cornerbacks covering him for a good chunk of the day. But Puka Nacua should be able to get after it in this game with some of that attention being shifted away from, with the lack of the changes at the other outside spot. My brain is trying to jump ahead in my notes here, and it's not working out. So we're just going to stay locked in right here, all right? And next in the 3 to see on the Rams offense is going to be Tutu Atwell, who I do think is another beneficiary of that Jaw Money and Cup matchup. But ultimately, the Packers in their depth shift, I think the reason that Tutu sticks out to me in this game is I think that this is a perfect situation, a perfect game for Tutu Atwell to get more involved in the run game. I think that we should hopefully see some more jet sweeps. We finally got to see one against the Dallas Cowboys, one of the first of the year, I think. So we got to see that, and I do anticipate that maybe we'll see Tutu Atwell, carrying out of the backfield. I think that we will see more carries from Tutu Atwell than what you would in a normal week. And it's just because of the matchup. It looks like the Rams should be able to run the football against the Green Bay Packers. Tutu's obviously got wheels for days. He's got mad speed, and it's just a perfect situation. So let's kind of use those matchups for the positive outcomes, obviously. And let's flip over to the other side here. We have the Packers offense versus the Rams defense. Packers offense is 26th in the league in total yards. Rams defense floating near the middle of the road right now at 14th. That is down from previous weeks. Packers offense is throwing for under 200 a game. That is 21st in the league. Rams defense is 13th in the league, just under 220 given up a game. And Packers running the football. Surprise, surprise, they are actually worse than the Rams at 88.4. That is 25th in the league, which surprises me considering the talent that they have at that spot. And the Rams defense is 20th against the run, giving up a little over 115 a game. Points being scored, Packers putting up an even 20. That is 21st in the NFL. And Rams defense giving up 23. That is also 21st in the NFL. Rams defense definitely has a great matchup in this one. To kind of try to get those rankings back up to where they've been. We've seen this team be a top 10 defense for a good chunk of the season, and it seems like last week, the way that the Cowboys game went, the way that the Pittsburgh game went, I guess Pittsburgh, the Rams outgained them, and they out everything to them, but there was just been some games where it seems like it's just kind of like the other team's kind of stacking some yards on this team, and it's kind of, it's interesting to see because it does feel like at the beginning of the season, the Rams secondary was just straight up lockdown. Like, Akello wasn't giving up anything. You were better off throwing it into the stands than trying Akello. Literally, QBRs were higher, or like your QBR would have been higher if you had incomplete passes on every throw than if you tried Akello Witherspoon, which was crazy. But it seemed like the pass rush wasn't getting home. Now it's the opposite. Pass rush is getting home. Michael Hoyt's getting in there. We see Aaron Donald obviously getting in there. Kobe Turner's getting in there pretty good. Byron Young continues to get better. And now the secondary, it seems like if no one gets to the quarterback, then there's a wide receiver just wide open for some reason. So it does seem like a little bit of a switch there. And I got to say, when the secondary was on and the pass rush was struggling, this defense was looking like they were playing a lot better. So there's that part of it all. But of course, there's a poor offense in Green Bay right now. I simply put, I'm not trying to trash them. I'm not trying to talk trash or anything like that, but it's just not a very good offense. It's Jordan Love being young and making some weird mistakes here and there. He kind of looks a little sloppy sometimes. And I'm not an analyst. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm some kind of quarterback genius or anything like that, but the eyeball test tells me that when he's at the back of his drop, that's when he's at his worst as far as like his speed goes. Like, he hits that back step and it feels so sluggish for him to get that motion moving. So that could be an opportunity for the Rams to get after him and maybe force some fumbles, something like that. But getting after that arm when he's rearing back for it, you absolutely have an opportunity to get after that football with Jordan Love because it's just such a slow motion. And maybe I'm missing something there, and maybe there's more to it than that. I'm sure there is, but from what my eyeballs are telling me, that's a spot that the Rams could take advantage. Jordan Love, he's slowly finding his footing as a starter in the NFL, but AD's coming after him. Byron Young's coming after him. Michael Hoyt has, I think, I'm trying to remember how many sacks he's had in these last few weeks. He's getting there for sure. But it's also a pretty shaky offensive line for the Packers. So the Packers fans really should be nervous about that matchup, about the Rams offensive line, or the Packers offensive line trying to block the Rams front. That is a problematic matchup for the Green Bay Packers. Some conversations say that Love could be benched. I don't see that at all. I don't see it happening simply because why would you take your young quarterback who's starting for the first time, entered the season as your starter for the first time in his career, and then you're just going to absolutely slam all of his confidence straight to the ground? That seems like such a bad move. But also, on the flip side of that, I mean, the way that he's playing, the way that offense is playing, the way that his wide receivers are dropping passes like crazy, that's also got to be taking a hit to his confidence too. So, I mean, maybe LaFleur out there will have some decisions to make. I'm sure he does. And in the Rams secondary, it's been very hit or miss. Some days it's on, some days it's not. And like I said, early season felt like secondary was incredible. And right now, it does seem like the secondary's given up a lot more. And I got to say, Darian Kendrick, it seems like ever since his incident, he's been a lot less intense in some regards because he's talking a lot of trash, but it just seems like he's just not in the right spots a lot right now. So I'd like to see that turn around. Obviously, I want him to do well. But ever since that, it does seem like he's just a little bit just not as in as we've kind of seen him early in the season. And I know most fans are super down on Darian Kendrick. And I don't know if that's why I am kind of defending him so much, but I like Darian Kendrick, and I hope that he can kind of turn this around and kind of shed that a little bit because he is going through a little bit of a rough stretch. But I think that he's got all the talent to do it. So that's what I would like to see. And like I said, all major categories for the for the Packers ranking in the 20s. This is a perfect opportunity for the Rams defense to stop that bleeding a little bit and kind of crawl back up into higher rankings and also help this team get a W, get back into that win column. And it's the wild card here is Lambeau Field. I mean, who knows with that place? It's November, but at least it's not a night game. I can confirm that last year it was super chilly. But, I mean, it was an absolute blast, but it was cold for sure. 3 to see on the Rams defense. We're going to start with Darian Kendrick. Ever since Kendrick's incident, like I said, he's been pretty spotty, but going against young wide receivers in Green Bay like Dobbs and Watson could help him gain some of that confidence back as the Rams head into the bye week. Aaron Donald up next, and if Aaron Donald does Aaron Donald things, the Rams win this football game. I don't think the Packers offensive line is equipped to block Aaron Donald, unless they're using 2 or 3 dudes, which is, I mean, what you should do anyway. But then the way that Michael Hoyt's been kind of coming on these last few weeks, Byron Young gets better every single week. Kobe Turner's doing an awesome job. So I think that if you kind of go after Aaron Donald with this Packers offensive line with like 2 or 3 dudes, somebody else should be able to get back there. But Jordan Love also mobile. So that is something you got to consider. And last, I'm going to go with Byron Young here. Seems to be a little bit more comfortable every single week, and it's showing how he is attacking the quarterback. The Week 18 Byron Young and the Week 1 Byron Young will effectively be an entirely different human, and in a good way. And it's yet another opportunity for Young to take his next step in his career in a very historic environment, and an environment that, I mean, he may have seen in college. I'm sure he did. I don't know his game by game in college, but this is going to be the first like real cold weather NFL game for all of these rookies, including Byron Young, of course. So that's something we're keeping an eye on. Let's take a look at some milestones here. So Matthew Stafford, he does need 2,871 yards to reach 10th all-time in league history, passing Eli Manning. So he is closing in on it, but we'll see what happens there. Needs 26 passing touchdowns to reach 10th all-time in league history as well. So he's definitely creeping up on that. Needs 197 passing yards to pass Matt Ryan for most passing yards in your first 200 regular season games. So 197. Definitely alert on Matthew Stafford there. If he does play in this game, that is something that we should see him hit, is 197. Tyler Higbee needs 36 receptions to pass Robert Woods for 8th most in franchise history, and 2 touchdowns to reach the top 10 in that category in franchise history. Cooper Kupp, 65 receptions out from passing Henry Ellard for 3rd most in Rams history, and 2 touchdowns from passing Ellard for 4th most in franchise history. So he's creeping up on that as well. And Aaron Donald officially broke into the top 30 of the league history in sacks, and is 6.5 out from moving into the top 25. So he reached the top 30. There's a little bit of a bunch there, and then 6.5. He could be into that conversation there. History of this matchup, the Packers do lead the all-time series, 49, 47, and 2, making this the 99th all-time meeting. Packers have won 3 straight and 8 of the last 9 against the Rams, with the Rams' most recent win coming on October 28th of 2018. That was a 29-27 win for the Rams at the LA Coliseum. First ever game between these two came on October 17th of 1937. That was Green Bay at Cleveland. Packers did win that one 35-10. And if we're looking at Rams playing at the Green Bay Packers, Packers do lead that all-time series 32-19, with games dating all the way back to East High School, which me and my buddy Jackson were actually able to visit last year, thanks to our incredible Uber driver named Oni. He was super cool. And yeah, we got to check out where these games have taken place before. I remember we kind of got out of the car there and kind of just were looking at it, and my brain immediately goes to like, oh my God, the Cleveland Rams have played on this field right here. And it was just super cool. So just wanted to share that. Some connections for you in this one. So former Rams who are now on the Packers. We have long snapper Matthew Orzech. He played for the Rams in 21-22, has a Super Bowl ring with the LA Rams. Head coach Matt LaFleur. He was offensive coordinator for the Rams in 2017 and is also, of course, Mike's older brother. Rams offensive coordinator. And the running back coach, Ben Sermons, he was with the Rams in 20... Oh, I wrote that number way wrong, and I don't know what that actually is. Let me take a peek here, actually. I'll get this correct for you. I don't want to just do that to you here. So it was 2012 to 2015 that Ben Sermons was a participant with the Rams. And, of course, defensive coordinator Joe Barry, 2017 to 2020, as the linebacker coach for the Rams. And former Packers, who are now on the Rams, is, defensive backs coach Aubrey Pleasant, who was there out in 2022. Pumped to have Aubrey Pleasant back. It didn't work out for him there, but I think he's an absolutely unbelievable coach, and I'm absolutely stoked to have him back. If Raheem Morris gets a job somewhere else, I absolutely want Aubrey Pleasant to get promoted into that role. And let's dive into a few connections here. So Aubrey Pleasant, he did coach cornerback Corey Ballantyne in Detroit. That happened in 2021. Offensive lineman Coleman Shelton and offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur. They coached. They were together in San Francisco with Packers offensive coordinator Adam Stenovich, which I believe is an itch at the end of that, not an ick. We'll confirm that. I'm sure my buddy Jackson will text me and tell me. Mike LaFleur and Raheem Morris coached in Atlanta with Matt LaFleur, so that's pretty cool stuff. And some college connections. Ernest Jones and Keir Thomas played at Carolina with Kingsley Enagbare, is what I'm going to guess that is, and Keyshawn Nixon in 2018. They were all there. Russ Yeast and Jair Alexander played in the secondary together at Louisville in 2017. Hunter Long, Rams tight end, played at Boston College with running back A.J. Dillon and linebacker Isaiah McDuffie of the Packers. Darian Kendrick, Stetson Bennett, and Warren McClendon played at Georgia, and that was alongside linebacker Quay Walker, defensive end Devontae Wyatt, cornerback Eric Stokes, and defensive quality control coach Wendell Davis. Those were not all at the same time. Not all of those players played together, but there was a bit of a mix there. To get into all the dates and stuff like that felt very mundane, so I didn't want to give that much detail on it. And then Ronnie Rivers, running back for the Rams, played at Fresno with outside linebacker Aaron Mosby of the Green Bay Packers. So we have a little bit of time here to dive into my conversation with my buddy Jackson, who is a massive Packers fan. He is actually an owner of the Packers. He's one of those. And, he'll let you know. He will absolutely let you know about that. But, of course, we'll get into that conversation, just a few minutes of our chat. And from the Packers' perspective, what we could maybe expect from this game. The Rams heading to Lambeau Field once again, which feels like we do that all the time. But, well, that does mean that we're bringing back Jackson, the homie, this weekend. Lambeau Field, what are we looking at? A high of like 45 and a little bit of a chance of some snow rain.
40% chance of snow.
So it'll be not as cold as last year, because last year was what, a high of?
It was a high of 15.
Yeah, I think the high of that day was like 21-ish. 22, but it was dark by the time kickoff.
Totally.
Yeah, it got really chilly last night. So in this game specific, is there any part of the Packers team that maybe you think is an underrated spot, and not necessarily in a spot where like that's going to be like, oh man, this is going to be awesome or whatever, but like just maybe something that Rams fans aren't thinking of going into a game against the Packers this year?
For the first time in probably the last 2 or 3 years, I think that our special teams is something that I don't necessarily have to worry about.
What part of the Packers offense concerns you going into a game against the Rams defense?
Our offensive line, of course. I mean, Josh Myers, just our center, just completely forgets how to play football as soon as he snaps.
That's terrible.
He snaps the ball and then he panics.
So Aaron Donald line up over the center could be bad news Bears.
It could be very bad news Bears.
So obviously the offensive line is a concern. I will say from the Rams' perspective there, and that is like Aaron Donald, obviously, we know what Aaron Donald is.
Absolute monster.
Byron Young on the edge is the one to worry about, but Michael Hoyt, he has had 3 sacks in the last 2 weeks. So he is kind of like rising up a little. So, and then let's flip over to the Packers defense here. Mm-hmm. Is there any part of the Packers defense that concerns you going into this game against the Rams?
Jair Alexander has not been the same since he injured his back.
I mean, it's most of your body.
Yeah.
You ever hurt your back? It's over. It's over.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I get it. I went to my chiropractor before I came here. Cracked me like a glow stick. It was awesome.
And then he popped your back. Is there any part of you that's like not only Cooper Kupp coming to town, but also future Hall of Famer Puka Nacua hitting the field?
Puka Nacua has got freaking goods, man.
Dude, don't tell. What is his name? I already forgot. Kyle Sloter. Kyle Sloter might be the dumbest human being on the planet. For somebody who did not notch a single stat to just take shots at Puka Nacua, who's got like 40% of the Rookie of the Weeks this year. So there was way too much of that conversation that I wanted to keep, so I am going to upload that full audio onto ramshowcase.com. I will notify on the Ram Showcase social medias when that is posted. Let's get